right, welcome aboard, everybody. Here we go, tomato talk. We're talking about it today, not tomatoes. We're talking about delegating and how hard that actually is. Yeah, now if you're a small business owner or entrepreneur, you kind of get it, right? Because here you are, you've started that business of yours. You've turned that hobby of yours into a business, but it's still yours. It's your baby, it's your project, it's your everything. It's like, how do you give it up? Well, but you're not giving it up. You're delegating out responsibilities. Are you delegating out the things you don't want to do? Probably. You're not going to delegate out the things you do want to do. Is it a benefit to the other person when you delegate items to them? If you find the right partner, if you find the right person, you find the right group, you find the right person to hire, then fine, man. Then you're on your way. Because we talk about opportunities, right? You have this opportunity in front of you. You could see that opportunity. You know you're ready to go and do it. And then all of a sudden, you're like in the midst of it. And then it's like, wait a second, I need help. What do you do then? I can tell you what you do. You make a phone call. Yeah, that old fashioned thing. You make a phone call. You make a phone call to Delegation Works. And you call this woman. You say, hey, I got this thing I'm working on. What do I do? How do I do it? Where do I go from here? Who do I hire? Who do I work with? What do I do? Well, I don't have the answer. She does. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Jenna Spencer. There you go. So what's the answer?
Well, that's a loaded question, but you have to start with the right person for you. So hi, Brian. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. I love to work with entrepreneurs and small business owners on delegation because it is so important. Because until you can delegate, you are your own assistant. And when you're doing all the things that your assistant could be doing, you are the assistant. And so all that time that you could be using to elevate your business and to grow your skill set, you're giving that up. You're making that exchange to continue doing assistant level things. And
Right.
so I am super passionate about growth and about helping entrepreneurs grow. So to the degree that you can delegate to free up your zone of genius and what you do best, that's to the degree that you can grow at a much faster rate. And so it's really looking at that exchange of time and energy and really what's most important. So the very first thing is you have to have the right assistant for you. And there are different types of assistants. Some people need a process follower because you are process oriented and you have all the processes and how you want things to go. And other people who are more visionary, like myself, I need a mom. I need someone who's going to treat me like their daughter and like, hey, you need to go here and, wear this and have this ready to go. And, oh, I've done all this for you. Like your lunch is packed. Just pick it up and take it out the door with you. And so it really comes down to starting with that person that you can trust and really finding that right structure that works for you, because everyone delegates a little bit differently. And I think everyone feels like there's a right way to do it. Like there's a way that I need to do it and it doesn't feel right. And so I must not be doing it right. But there's so many different ways to delegate. It all comes down to what works for you. Just like we all have different businesses as entrepreneurs, it's what works for you and the type of person that you work with that really where the magic is found.
It sounds like a lot of this is that look in the mirror, just as well as anything else, because it's got to start out with what do I like to do? What do I don't want to do? What am I good at doing? What am I not so good, at doing? And where does it make the most amount of sense to delegate things out? And I know it's hard, as someone who's just getting started or you're like so passionate about it. It's like, oh, no, nobody can do it better than I can.
Mm-hmm.
I would tend to think that that's really not true. There are other people with various levels of expertise that would add to the equation, not take away, not steer you off course, but truly, truly add to that equation.
Oh, absolutely. If that to-do list continues to grow and things continue to slip between the cracks and you're burning the candle at both ends, like those are kind of the major red flags of like, hey, I really need some help and I really need to delegate. And finding that right person for you and that right structure, there's all different ways that you can delegate and you can move at different speeds. And so it's really looking at, like you said, what am I really good at? What do I want to spend my time doing? And then how do I find the right person to come alongside me and to help get these things done? Because when you're an entrepreneur and really getting started or just coming out of, startup phase, you really need like a third arm, And that's what a lot of my clients say is like, I really need like an extension of myself because I need to get all these things done and it's all in my brain. But by finding that person that can take things, at least halfway, then you can come on and do the last 20% and it still has your touch to it. You're still the final eyes on it. There's still a lot of control that you can have without having to do every single step of the process. I think that's where a lot of people get hung up. They're like, oh, I need to do all of it. But if you really break it down into the smaller steps or let someone tell you, hey, I could do these 4 things of this 6-step process, then when you are seeing the last part of it, you still have that control to make sure everything was done to your standards or how you wanted it before it's kind of released or that final step is taken. I think a lot of people might forget that when they go to delegate, like, oh, if I delegate, I'm not going to see it again. I'm not going to be able to stop it, but really there are lots of creative ways and you can have more visibility either later or sooner, depending on your comfort level. And that's really what delegation works is all about, is helping you understand that process and how to delegate for you to where you can get more comfortable and kind of get that practice in to where you can become a master delegator, no matter where you need to start.
Right. Delegating does not mean you're giving it all away. It doesn't mean that it's all of a sudden becoming somebody else's project. There was one thing I did a while back is like I outlined, and I had 17 committees I was working with on a project. So obviously I was not doing, I was not doing it all. I wasn't even doing most of it to be totally out in the open. I was like, I needed everybody to go and do, but I gave them the outline. And is that part of it? If you're going to delegate something out or look to hire somebody, don't you kind of like need to give them an outline of what your thought process is, and then that trust factor comes in about how they make it better with their own expertise, and then it's a mutually beneficial relationship there.
Oh, absolutely. So what I always recommend for my clients to do and what we teach through the process is really thinking about why is this item important to you and what is the importance of delegating it. So most oftentimes it's things that are not getting done that we need to have done because we're trying to do them all and we're behind. And so there's this constant process. And so it's figuring out, why is this important to me? What is it? How would I like this to be done? Like if I could do it, how would I like for it to be done? And just have all that written down and then communicate that to the person that you're going to delegate to. And so, but also thinking about how do you best communicate? So I know a lot of times my clients will say, but I just don't have time to sit down and write everything out. So sometimes that outline could be provided in video format. I communicate by Loom video 90% of the time with my assistant. Or through a phone call so that I can talk out my thought process and then it's automatically downloaded to that person. But yes, it's kind of like if we never take time to work on our business, we're always just in the business and then we don't really work on the business. So it's kind of the same with delegation. If you take that time, even 30 minutes, just to get your thought process down on what you want to delegate, maybe you just start with 1 or 2 things, why it's important, the outline and all of that, and communicate that over, then you're not having to go back and continually do it. You've done it, that one important part, and delegated it. And so you don't have to keep doing that. Where if you're doing the work, you have to repeat and do the work every single time. So sometimes people think, oh, it's an investment of time. I just don't have the time to do that. But if you make that one small investment of your time, it saves you so much time later.
Yeah, you just have to know that and understand that as that goes.
Mhm.
And so before we get too far into the programs that you offer and the company itself,
Yeah.
type of clientele that you work with, there's always some reason why we do something, what that catalyst was that got us into some sort of a direction. So you've come from corporate America and now you're in entrepreneur America as that goes. What was the big shift for you? Why the change? And what have you learned actually as becoming an entrepreneur and understanding the benefits of working with different people for yourself?
Yeah. So my story started as an entrepreneur because of my desperation as a mom. So I was a young mom. I had 3 very small children. My youngest was just brand new, and I was driving to corporate America. My kids were, in daycare and all of that. And I just kind of felt like a fish out of water in corporate America. And I didn't really understand why, but it just didn't feel like a perfect fit. And so I decided that I wanted to work from home. And these two business coaches, amazing entrepreneurs, just wonderful, wonderful men, they hired me to be their assistant. And it was through a Craigslist ad, no less. So this was pre-COVID, pre everyone working virtually. And, I was looking everywhere to work from home. And, 9 years ago, that was insurance and, sales from home, direct sales, those types of things.
Yeah.
So,
Not exactly in vogue at the time, was it?
yeah,
It's like, you work from home? You're really
yeah,
working?
yeah. Like what is it that you're doing?
Yeah.
So,
Kind of changed a little bit, hasn't it?
yes. So anyway, they were two what we call EOS implementers. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with EOS. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and there's a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. It's a wonderful operating system for small businesses. And so they were coaches in this industry, hired me to be their assistant. And 6 months in, they said, "Hey, our industry, like, we need assistants. Have you ever thought about having your own company?" Well, I had women that were saying, "Hey, you're working from home. You seem really happy. You've got more time with your families." And so I just knew that there was an opportunity to help my previous business friends be able to work from home. And I had been able to do some really cool things for my clients in those 6 months. And I really learned about how much they trusted me. And I was able to establish a really great relationship with them. And they just poured into me and really gave me my first taste of professional development. They were doing super cool things like hiking Kilimanjaro and Machu Picchu. And so I got to set all of that up for them and, be their assistant and coordinate and organize all of these things for them, and just really cool opportunities. And so I thought, man, I love working with my clients so much. This is so amazing. I want other people to have exposure, to this. And I felt so important because they trusted me. And what I was doing was really making a difference in their lives. Like, they actually had time to go do the things that they wanted to do because I was managing their lives and their business for them. And so it was not just, "Hey, here's the list of tasks and just go do all these things." It was, "Hey, I'm giving you this responsibility and you're in charge of it. And if something goes wrong, you let me know." And so it was a really high level of responsibility, and I just loved it. So that's how I got started in business. And they, helped me start the business. They started referring all of their business colleagues over to us. And there was, the whole startup phase where I was like, "What am I doing? Oh my gosh, this is crazy."
Yeah.
But, got to help so many people work from home and have the same type of feeling of really important satisfaction and supporting people while they were working from home and working part-time. So my story, so I can kind of be a storyteller sometimes. I apologize. But so it just became this really great opportunity. And I learned a lot about myself. And I realized that I'm a visionary and I love to work with people. And so it really, I feel so comfortable as an entrepreneur because I feel like I thrive in chaos. And so as an entrepreneur, especially in the startup days of your company, things are, everyone's doing everything. It's crazy. So I'm not sure if my winding tale there answered your question, but that's kind of how I got started.
Yeah, no, it actually does. It actually fits in 100% here with this whole idea of tomato talk, right? Advancing through opportunities, and sometimes those opportunities come from other situations. You're always a good situation. You've got a family, want to spend a little bit more time with the family, and then boom, these things grow. And by you being in that role too, it seems like you really understand it from both sides of the fence.
Mhm.
Because it's funny how you mentioned you're a visionary, yet on the other side, you've got them all together there. And let me tell you, I've never gone to Kilimanjaro. I can only imagine the complications and what has to happen surrounding all of that, especially if you have a business. I've only climbed here in the States. I haven't gone the international route, as of yet. But understanding both sides of it and having the skill sets on both sides, the vision to see where the potential is, we'll say, where
Mhm.
things can be, but being organized enough. And I'm sure, being a mom, you're organized more than you did, to a tremendous amount to balance the whole thing and to get it together and to see that. So then that has to translate rather well into when you're sitting down there with a new client and understanding it's a personal project, that they have. But what about corporate America? Are they go through the same things? Because, I got a corporate executive and maybe they got a department they could work with, and delegation is a big factor in there too. Are they running into issues where they should be delegating and not?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like, and we work with a lot of executives as well that, are delegating down into departments and to other people. And, I think there are a lot of similarities. I'm responsible for this department and I do have these people that are reporting to me, but this is important enough that I need to take care of it. And so it is something very typical that happens all the time of, well, I'll keep this project because this project has such a big impact on our department, or, for my role. And so there definitely are a lot of similarities there. And I think that, there's this thought process that continues to come up for me is that great people want growth and great leaders want great people. So what happens when we don't feed our great people that opportunity for growth and for advancement and responsibility? They feel like they're not doing something right, or, why do I not have this opportunity to help? And so delegation and consistent and smart delegation, it feeds that cycle, right? Because their delegation never stops and you never stop growing as a leader, because I've never met a leader that's like, yeah, I need something else to fill up 10 hours of my week. It's always I'm at capacity and I need more time. And so as leaders, it's important to understand that there's many different ways you can delegate. Delegate to your family, delegate to your department, delegate to other people in your organization, delegate to an assistant. The delegation is not just to an assistant. It can be in many different facets, but that gives you the opportunity to grow every time that you delegate, because your people get better and they get better, they grow, they learn new things, they learn how to better support you, they learn your preferences more. And then you create just a little bit of space where then you can grow again as a leader. And then it kind of keeps this cycle going.
Yeah. I'd heard if you really want to get promoted someplace, you got to get somebody else that could do your job. So then you could move on to something bigger. So without a doubt, delegating, is there. But how important then is it? So we're going to sit here, we're going to figure out our own strengths, our own weaknesses, those things that we could delegate, those things that we want to delegate, those things we'll still have our fingerprint on and make it work that way. So it works for us. But what about that other person? Really understanding who the personality, the goals of the person you are delegating to, that has to figure into the equation.
Absolutely. So, I think it comes down to trust, right? Because when you're delegating, there is trust and there is synergy and there is relationship there. And so having that conversation, I think a lot of times leaders get stuck on, but I don't think I can delegate this. And so sometimes we take away that unique ability of the other person, or for them to exercise that, when we could say, I'd really like to delegate this. I'm a little nervous about losing control. How do you think we could tackle this? And what do you think you could do in the delegation of this process to meet that need? And so sometimes we create that barrier as the leader because maybe we don't understand what they could do with it. We're only thinking from our perspective. So like you said, it can be as simple as talking to them and asking and saying, hey, you are very detail oriented and organized. What are your ideas on this project or on this thing that I'm going to delegate? And so just giving them the space to talk that through, because I think sometimes that leaves that person being delegated to kind of like, well, what can I do? And they feel like they don't have the ability to offer suggestions. And so you're really taking away an opportunity and you're making things a lot harder for yourself in the process, because it could be much easier by letting them bring their ideas to the table.
Right. But you got to let them do that.
Yes.
So that conversation has to be a two-way street conversation to better understand who you want to delegate to, what their goals, aspirations, what their talents are, which may go well beyond what's on the resume, which I found with so many people, especially those that continue to do. All of a sudden, they're doing all kinds of things outside the normal corporate environment, that you can,
Absolutely.
that you could pull from.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I didn't
Yeah.
know it like even those guys, the two that you were working with, with the hiking and the rest of that stuff. So if they're hiking, that means they're involved in a bunch of other things, just as well. There's got to be health involved, exercise involved, stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it's, you never know what somebody else's interests are until you chat with them. And that becomes, super important along the way. But the trust factor is everything.
It is. It really is everything. And I think that, it's important to remember that whoever you're delegating, we'll just use the assistant example for this one. You're delegating to an assistant, they really see all parts of you because, there's this kind of this balance thing, right? And I could kind of go into that, my just viewpoint, because work-life balance, the scale isn't equal. It's not always in balance, right? There's different things going on in different places. And I know for me, just as a woman and as a mom, when I think about life is not Jenna. Life is kids and husband and animals and the house and sports and all those things. And so someone introduced me to the thought process of work-life self-balance. And so when you're delegating to an assistant, they see all three parts of you, because if one part of you is off balance, that affects the other parts. So if you've had something, strenuous going on or stressful at home, that's going to impact how you are at work. And so having that trust and being able to have that person that has your back to be able to say, yeah, I just had a late night with a family issue or something, your assistant can be there and can be equipped to support you and help. And sometimes we just have to allow ourselves to receive that and allow ourselves to have that trusting environment. But it really can be a great thing. And I found that's one of the biggest things just with our clients and with myself, and really opening up to that assistant. And just receiving that support. It's been really interesting to see, oh, I actually needed help with something personal. And that made my work week fly by and be so much easier because I had all of that out of my brain and I wasn't worried about that at work.
Right.
So it's also kind of that other element of thinking about it too.
It gets rid of some of the other clutter stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
you get someone to talk to, call it an accountability partner, all the rest of that stuff. We could go down the route of mental health inside of this thing, as also,
Yes.
but we'll save that one for another day. What about the company? What exactly is the company? Can you explain how people can get involved and what you're really looking to offer with potential clients?
Yes. So Delegation Works is actually my new company. So I got started with a company. My main company is AssistPro, and that is an outsourced assistant agency. And so that is there for people that say, I don't want to worry about the hiring or figuring out if this is the right person. I just want to hire somebody to help me get that right. So we have that kind of do it for you company approach. And then I've started Delegation Works because I kept meeting new entrepreneurs and new business leaders that were like, I would love to do that and to just get an assistant, but I actually want to learn how to delegate and I want to learn how to become a better leader through delegation in different aspects. So Delegation Works is a training platform, and we have our pilot course that we have released, and it's all about delegation, and it's about the three main pieces of delegation and it's the how to for delegation, and it has our proven process in it and a lot of tools so that you can start that cycle of delegation and then be able to move into more sophisticated levels of delegation as well. So it's a training course that you can do and do at your own pace, and take it as you go.
This really is a look in the mirror.
Yes.
It's a true, who am I? Can I really do this? Am I too territorial? Right? Can I actually say this is the project I want you to work on? Things like that. That's great, because I go through that kind of a conversation with someone who says, they're coachable. I was like, yeah. So do you actually implement those opinions? No, I got the ideas. It's like, okay, you're not coachable,
Yeah.
and the rest of that stuff. So can you actually delegate? Sure, until it actually comes time to it. And so that's great that people can actually learn the process
Mm-hmm.
and their own capabilities and the benefits to them, the what's in it for me factor that goes along with it too, to show how much more they could generate.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
and that's an online class, and that's different than most other or any other
I
company
think
like that. It's the
there's
first time I've heard something in that respect.
Yeah, there's lots of resources out there. I mean, you have the Michael Hyatts and the Dan Sullivans, and they have amazing resources. And I have been in their groups and love their resources. I just found with the hundreds of clients that we've served, even people that you feel like, oh, this is a great assistant for me. When you get to the point of, okay, I'm actually going to delegate, a lot of people still falter and they still say, oh, but wait, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I wanted to provide something so simple that it could say, first do this and then do this. And if you're worried about this, go back to step one. So really teaching people that you're not just saying, great, here, I'm turning this over and I'm never going to look at it again. Delegating is a very personal journey, and you can go at whatever speed you want to go at and whatever you need to go at, but just get started. Because if you never get started, you're never going to do it. And it's just like, until you go to the gym, you're not going to the gym. Your health isn't going to change. So it's like you gotta pick up the weight and lift the first weight in order to lift weights, and so that's why the course is laid out the way that it is. There's a heavy component on discovery. So discovering yourself and understanding that you don't need what somebody else tells you need in an assistant. The things that are important to you, to the right assistant, those are also going to be important. So there's a heavy focus on who's the right assistant for you. And that answer is different for everyone. And then foundation. What do you need to have a good foundation to delegate? And how do you build that foundation? How do you become comfortable with delegating something? And then growth. So once you feel like you've mastered kind of the cycle of delegation, then how do you actually grow utilizing delegation? And that's where it gets really fun. So
Yeah, I bet it does. Yeah,
yeah.
we've gone through now. We got a business plan, we got a marketing plan, and now we have this delegation plan. But it's all super important things. I guess, a new three-legged stool over here in
Yeah.
order to move the company into a positive and continuous growth mode, because you can't do it alone. People just don't do it alone.
Yep. Very true.
That's great. So when they're doing that, you're available for questions, as that goes.
Oh, yeah. So we're available. So it's very simple. You just go to the site and you can purchase the course. And then I also offer delegation coaching. So if someone
Okay.
says, hey, I have an assistant, but I don't feel like we're growing, or I don't feel like I can delegate, there's a few different things that can be there, and I can help you explore what those are. Some people just need hey, I really want to delegate this, but I'm really scared. Could you just hold me accountable? And so we offer just different aspects of delegation coaching. And then, yes, we're available, anytime with questions that you have, and lots of tools and things are available. So we are going to start a community aspect to it, and that's to come. So lots of exciting things and more courses that will be revealed as well soon. So
That's terrific. There really is. And the website's simple enough. Delegation Works, right?
delegationworks.com.
Easy enough. Jen, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today. It's a lot of things to think about, especially the fact that, like, who's holding us back. And if it's us, that's a bad thing. They should be calling you and move that ball forward. Take that first step, and all those other adages that are out there.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. I really enjoyed this. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And I'll put the link up in the comment section for anybody. So again, thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, let's go with here. The company is called Delegation Works, and it does. It does. We have to be able to delegate. We have to be able to bring on a partner. We have to be able to share responsibilities with someone, understanding our own side of it, what's in it for us, what our strengths, weaknesses are. You know what? It's that conversation. Once you have that, taking participating in the program that Jenna offers, doing the coaching, whatever it might be, but understanding how you can move forward is great. And understanding how the other person can move forward along with you, man, sky's the limit, as always. I want to thank you so much for joining us here today on Tomato Talk. Top of mind, advancing through those opportunities. And when you find those opportunities, and when you delegate to grow with those opportunities, now more of you are going to speak well, speak often, and live inspired.